Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. See all familiar faces and new faces with the new year. Very happy. So, today we're going to talk about living with intention. Peter already started right there. He already put us in the right mood for. There you go. Everything is orchestrated. One thing that you talk about the what ifs, and the what ifs in life, it's a big part of my life. But it's on the bad side. What if everything goes wrong? What if the car breaks? What if I cannot make this payment? And the what if wheel goes turning and turning, and then I'm going crazy. So that's why it's so important to live with intention. I put the intention that all my what ifs will be positive. What if all the payments are done and I can go for a nice meal afterwards on my favorite place? What if nothing breaks and I have extra time to play with my cats? So the intention, we put everything in motion. We put the energy that we want into everything that's going to happen in our lives. What if, huh? So right now we are putting intention towards our friend's way. For people at home, we have a lady here that makes the best cookies ever, and we miss them. So when I was preparing this talk about 2 weeks ago, I thought of, well, it's perfect that it's going to be a new year. So it's going to be 2 weeks into the new year. We are a little bit settled down. We know, okay, we got a little feeling of how 2021 is going to be. And many people make New Year's resolution. Does anybody here make resolutions? All right, how is that working? I think he was answering, right? So it is common for us to have this big wave of intention on the beginning of the year, but it's also very common for us to let the guard down, forget about. When we start a new year, we have usually a big celebration, a New Year's party, fireworks, noise, but there's not a physical step that we close 2020 door, open 2021 and walk in. There's not a settled separation. If we are not looking at the news, if we're not looking at the calendar, one day just merges into another, and another week, and another month, and our whole life goes by. So the difference between one year to the other, it's going to be the intention that we put in. It's going to be our focus, our energy. It's going to be us that it's going to be closing a, how can I say, a era of our life, open the doors to a new one. So the difference will be our perception. It's all about the cycles. I have here a little statement from Bronnie Ware. I hope I'm not butchering her name. She's an Australian palliative nurse. She works in facilities, hospice facilities, and she's usually spending the last few months of her patients' lives with them. And she usually asks them, what would you do different if you had the chance? Or what are your regrets for this life? By getting the habit of doing that, having this tough but very constructive conversation with them, she started to realize there are themes that were repeating itself, and she grouped into 5 major themes. So what keeps coming as response was, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life that others expected from me. Now imagine most of those people answering that they're elderly, they are well into their 80s, 90s years old, and they're saying, I live a whole life not the way I wanted. Or, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And I wish I had let myself be happier.
That's a correlation between the last one and the one before, because that's the study from Harvard that people that have friends
Live longer.
longer and happier.
As I always say, the messages here from before the talk itself are correlated. But to me, it started early today. I started to listen to a TED talk, and the Surgeons General that served in Obama's administration, he has a book that talks about solitude. And he did a whole study, and the whole book pretty much talks about how people live a lot less if they are feeling alone. Even if it's a matter of having one person they can count on, or even if it's somebody that you can call on the phone, you don't have to be physically close, which we are very happy since we all know what happened last year. But having somebody, having a friend that you are in touch, that does change your life. So, by all those answers, we don't see anybody complaining, oh, I wish I had stayed 2 more hours at the office to finish whatever their work was. I wish I had more money to buy more boats or more cars. Or I wish I could buy this or buy that. Or houses and possessions. That's not what we regret later in life. When we analyze everything that we've been through, we will be wishing to have more time with the people we love, being true to ourselves, having something meaningful. And that's what I want to bring to you guys today, because once we put the intention on our lives, once we have the feeling that we are authentic to ourselves, that's when we really live. You have a question?
Yes, ma'am. I agree with everything you're saying, but if you do statistically work an extra hour of work, you can make 60% more money, which could in the future provide more time for your family financially.
I agree with that.
No, I'm not disagreeing, but
But
future effort.
that only happens if you do have a future. We
Everyone
see,
has a future.
yeah, but a lot of people pass away when they are 25. So the point is that we cannot sacrifice the important things. And if money is what is important to you, so be it. But if what is important to you is living with your friends, or being true to yourself, or having a true identity, that's what you have to concentrate. So working out hour less in order to do that, it may make you happy. So see what is important to you. So intention, since we're talking so much about intention, the definition here is a strong purpose or aim, but not only that, it's accompanied by a determination to produce a desired result. A lot of New Year's resolution ends right there. We have a very strong purpose, we have an aim, I know I want to do that, but then I don't have a determination to produce. I don't have plan to follow through. So intention, it's not only purpose. Wayne Dyer is one of my favorite American authors. He wrote the book The Power of Intention after reading one single sentence from another book, Carlos Castaneda's The Active Side of Infinity. And that sentence was, intent is a force that exists in the universe. When sorcerers, and by sorcerer he means those who live off the source, those who are connected to God, beckon intent. So when sorcerers beckon intent, it comes to them and sets up the path for attainment, which means that sorcerers, the ones connected to God, always accomplish what they set out to do. So I think we have all the ingredients here that we need for a recipe, right? So we're gonna look into how to put together the intents, how to have a set of beliefs. And we are in a spiritist center, so our perspective today will be how to bring spiritism to give you a life to live with intention. When we talked, last time I talked here with you guys was about a little over a month ago, and we talked about the spiritist principles. And that day I promised to you that I'll come back and we're going to talk about how we tied all this up into our daily lives. How can we bring principles of spiritism that sounds very literal, something from the book, something that was like the basis of a doctrine. How can we bring that to our day-to-day, make it work for our particular life? So today we'll be talking from the book Spiritism Easily Explained. That's a tiny little book. That's a source of, I don't know, if we could just distill whatever energy in that book, I think we could light up the world. So right on the end of this little book, Kardec is kind of summoning, compiling, putting together the advices that the higher spirits are bringing to us for this very day-to-day life. This is like, let's make as clear as possible so everybody can understand it. This is what we are telling you. Do this to live a better life. So I got those, it starts before this part of the book, it's all by items. So he's starting those advices on item 35, and there are 26 of them. We're probably not going to have time to go to all of them, but we're going to try to get most of them there. But I compiled them into themes, just like Bronnie Ware found a theme within her patients and their regrets and the things they wish for. We're going to try to do the same here today. So we're going to talk about what it is to be a spiritist, afterlife consequences, connection with God, hope for the future, and charity. This book, I believe we are out of them here on our bookstore, but you can find on kardecpedia.com, and it's a very fun read. So, being a spiritist, I see mostly familiar faces, and I know you guys are coming here for quite a while. So out of my own curiosity, and you can just move your hand or raise your hand, do you consider yourself a spiritist?
You gotta move the head and the hand. Okay.
If you answer with the mask, just with your lips, I may not see.
And hand.
I'm still learning.
Perfect. So let's see. This is,
But most people who come for the public meetings, they are just wanna see what spirit.
they are learning, exactly.
I just don't feel like I have the right to call myself
The
just
spiritist.
I just need to learn more, you know?
All right, so let's see
Have respect.
if by the end of the day you can call yourself spiritist, because
I need to know first. You know,
That takes all of us, my friend.
yeah,
It doesn't matter how long you've been with this. It's all
Yeah.
of us.
Perfect.
And there is one thing about Spiritism, by the way, that everybody who comes here, nobody needs to be a spiritist. Spiritism is open to all religions, races, and everything.
Yeah, I'm trying to become a spiritist.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm just trying to, I'm new, so I'm trying to.
So let's define and make maybe a little bit easier for everybody to understand what is really a spiritist. And I was gonna say this later on, but I'm gonna just say now. I believe that most people, most there's a lot of great spiritists that never even learn or even know what is spiritism. And this is why.
Maybe it's me, I don't know.
The essential aim of Spiritism is human improvement. In it, one should only seek for what can really help mankind's improvement. The true Spiritist is not one who believes in its manifestations, but he who profits from the teachings given by spirits. It is useless to believe if this faith does not make one progress positively and also do the utmost for one's fellow creature. So we could spend 20, 30 years here learning about Spiritism. But if we're not doing anything with what we learn, the only thing that we are reaching is our intellect. We're not making ourselves better. We're not making our lives better. We're not growing as a person.
Okay, I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
And how about if I do not consider myself a spiritist? What is the hope for me?
The hope for you? Let's see if that will answer.
How about if I have a different way of another religion, another philosophy? Do I need to be a spiritist to evolve?
Absolutely
To go
not.
forward?
That's why I say there's a lot of great spiritists in their heart that do not even know what spiritism is.
But
They
it's important in a public lecture for everybody to know that spiritism does not require for you to become a spiritist.
There's no sign up form in the front. You don't have to become a spiritism. You don't have to have any attachment as a religion to come here.
And not even to evolve.
Not
right?
even to evolve.
An atheist can be ahead of me, don't you think?
Exactly.
In terms
An
of
atheist could
evolution.
have a wonderful heart, could be doing everything the way it should go. And sometimes we are here calling ourselves spiritists and we're not doing what needs to be done.
Sorry about that.
You cannot say that.
I believe an atheist doesn't believe in anything, right?
Exactly.
They don't have a religion.
It's mostly materialistic and think that once you pass away, that's the end.
So, if I'm trying to get to heaven, I should probably have a relationship with, God.
They'll take a lot of conversation on what you believe heaven is, if it's a physical
Just,
place.
A better place, I guess.
He meant involvement.
If you exactly, if you want to evolve, by the end of all those 5 topics, we're gonna see what we believe that will be a path for evolvement.
Okay, all right. Allow me to say because this is so important for us to when we have public meetings. There is a big ladder towards evolvement, spiritual evolvement. Does not matter which step you're in. What matters is that we are responsible for the portion of the truth we can understand and accept. So she's just talking about general things in terms of the concept of being a spiritist. And I really want to make sure that everybody who comes to a public meeting understand that she just want to present a concept that you can consider yourself a spiritism and you can have an atheist ahead of you, morally speaking.
As long as the atheist
Is an ethical
doing the
person.
right thing.
That's what matters.
Right.
Because
Okay, you're doing good actions.
nobody needs to be a spiritist to evolve. What matters is that you do the best you can with a portion of the portion of the spiritual truth you can absorb and accept.
Yeah, what is your understanding
just
of?
one of the virtues that humans have, right? So
Exactly.
morality is one of them. You don't have to believe
Ethics
in God
and
to be a charitable person, to be loving, to be caring.
As long as you're doing the right thing.
Exactly. But the more loving you become, the more caring you are, the more you start developing yourself morally. Spirituality will start to grow inside of you, and eventually, not only we're going to be developing ourselves morally, but also spiritually.
Touche. I agree.
Okay. And the last one we have here is Spiritism faith is only useful for those who can say we're better today than yesterday. So it's not about being a spiritist, it's about being better tomorrow. Even if you make mistakes today, you're aiming for being better tomorrow. That is the goal. You are evolving, and it is a day-to-day effort. So, what these spirits bring to us about afterlife consequences. Earth afflictions are remedies to the soul. They solve for the future like a painful surgical treatment which relieves a sick person's life and brings back health. For this reason Christ say, "Blessed are the afflicted, for they shall be comforted." Most of you know that I work in an animal hospital. And almost every day we have one or two surgeries that are tumors removal or growth removals. And sometimes we see the animal suffering afterwards because it is painful. There is a cut, there is inflammation. But we know that this pain that we are inflicted into the animal, it's probably going to save its life. So when we are going through difficulties, we need to have the what if that Peter talked about. What if the pain that I'm going through right now, it's helping me evolve. It's making my life better tomorrow. So once we live with that intention, seeing the positive side, there's a positive side on everything, even the things that hurt the most. Despair is a natural feeling, for he who believes everything ends with death. It is nonsense for those who believe in the future. And the future means a afterlife. So if you do not believe there's anything afterlife, everything is ending, it is common to see desperation at this moment. But if you do believe there's an afterlife and you're always going to be evolving, then the despair is gone. Still, we could have a grief, we could have a pain, but now we know there's a reason for it.
Okay, but who imposes the afflictions?
If you can hold to that question a little bit, because we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about that.
Don't get despair.
No, don't despair.
Right? Okay.
Oh, actually, we're gonna talk about right now.
Okay.
Man is sometimes the artisan of his own unhappiness in this world. If he went back to the source of his misfortunes, he will see that his pains are the consequence of his unawareness, pride, and avidity, and therefore his violation of God's law. Those violations could have been committed in this life or even in a prior life. But as we evolve, as we are more connected to God, we are trying to atone for the mistakes that we made in the past. And sometimes we do ask for challenges in life in order to atone for those. So I hope that answers you.
Yeah, it does. It does. I like it. But there's so much more.
There's a
But I
lot
understand-
more.
But I understand that you want to bring an overview. Right?
It's just an overview. This is just few items that the higher spirits are telling us. Pay attention on this. This is important because your life is not gonna end when your physical life ends. There's gonna have more to it. And you can have a better outcome if you pay attention to those things. Connection with God. Pray a lot is unimportant, but one must pray well. Some people believe that prayers' merit lies in its length, while they close their eyes to their flaws. Prayer is an occupation to them, a time killer, and not a self evaluation. So, spending an hour or two praying sometimes is not gonna give you any better connection with God than if you're just calming yourself down, and even if it's just a thank you, an acknowledgement that you see God as a higher power, you see the effects in your life of this power
From the heart.
from the heart.
From your perspective, how many times would you recommend praying a day?
As many times as you need.
I know when you feel like it, but just maybe four times. I usually pray before I eat, so I'm just maybe I know
It is a good
4 times.
it's a good habit to have a thankful outcome to life. But not only when you are sitting down to eat, but any good thing that happened in your life is just bring that split second and say thank you. And sometimes when you're doing your dishes, instead of being thinking about the movie you saw last week, bring this moment, connect to God, and have a conversation. And it does not need to be a setup like a mechanical something you learned when you were little and you always say those same words in repetition. It could be just, God, I had a tough day today. I need to look into my life and see how can I make this better. This alone is a prayer.
But definitely dedicate time, an hour to either be prayer.
That's a very personal person.
30, like maybe.
It's from person to person.
Okay.
The only thing,
Say it
the
all
only
at
thing
once.
that that's not a formula for that.
Yes.
In terms of numbers of times that you pray, it's when you feel like it.
Okay.
And prayer can be something just like you said, thank God, you did that for me. I'm very, very blessed to, have that and this. And this is a prayer. Sometimes we just feel that the prayer has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And sometimes it doesn't.
Is it wrong that a routine? Like I pray when I wake up, I pray before I eat, and I pray before I go to sleep.
That's good.
And then I think about,
it's not a need of time. It's
Right.
very needed.
I understand. Okay. Just
There is nothing right or wrong in terms of prayer.
Correct. I know. I just didn't know the average.
Well, the more you're connected, the better it is. Sometimes what I do is I just think of something positive.
Yes, correct.
It's a form of prayer.
I apologize for my question.
No,
That's
we
fine.
love that.
The whole point of those talks are learning, so we're learning.
We love participation, right, guys?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Who does
I'm
it?
sorry.
Raise your hand who does it.
Oh yeah.
It says it all.
So thankful you came for that.
All right, no, it's good.
All right.
We like this. This is what it's about. Everybody.
Participating. Okay, so he who asks God to forgive his mistakes is only pardoned if he changes his behavior. Good actions are better than prayers, since acts are more valuable than words. Words are extremely powerful. We know that. So acts are even more. So when I pray, if I'm talking to God and recognizing that I made a mistake and asking for forgiveness, that means I know what I did was wrong. So I have the mental cognition to know that I have to do better, that I have to change that behavior. Prayer is recommended by all good spirits. It is also practiced by imperfect spirits as a way of alleviating their sufferings. I heard many people saying that I don't even dare to talk to God because I'm so imperfect. But that's when we have to really talk. That's when we alleviate our sufferings. Next one, talk a little more about that. Prayer cannot change providence resolutions, but suffering spirits feel less deprived of protection and becomes less unhappy through prayer. Prayer stimulates their courage and will for improvement through regret and repair. It can also change the spirit's inclination from evil. In this sense, prayer can not only lessen but also shorten sufferings. Like Peter said in the beginning, if you cannot pray, if you cannot listen to an audiobook or a lecture, listen to music. That enough changes the energy, changes your wave. So when we are, even if we think that we have inclinations to evil, just by connecting to God through prayer, we are changing the pattern that our brain's working. Right there, we are connecting, we are stepping away from one scenario of inclinations of evil, of negativity, and we are stepping into connection with God. And that alone, having the habit, will shorten our sufferings. Let each one pray according to their beliefs and in the manner they consider more convenient, since form is nothing. So it doesn't matter if you are a spiritist, you are a Buddhist, you are an atheist even. The manner also doesn't matter. According to the beliefs, according to manner, form is nothing. The thought is what is everything. So even if all you can muster one day is a thank you, you're already ahead of the game. Sincerity and pureness of purpose is essential. So here comes again our intent. Good thoughts are worth more than 1,000 words, which were like the noise of a mill and where the heart cannot be found. Sometimes we start to talk so much that our brain even gives up and is already having other thoughts and our mouth is still going here. So the important is sincerity and pureness of purpose. And now what do they say about values and hope for the future? God makes some persons strong and powerful in order for them to help the weak. Powerful people who oppress the weak are warned by God. Listen that one. Fortune is a more dangerous test than misery, since it constitutes a temptation to the abuse and excesses, and because it is harder to be moderate than extravagant. On this one I didn't include here, but there's another one, the number 52. Fortune is a bounty whose owner can only temporarily enjoy it, since he cannot take it to the grave. The affluent will be severely called to account for the use of their wealth. So they're not saying having wealth is wrong. What you do with the wealth, it's what is important. If there was a gift it was meant for you to put that to work. The next part, we're going to talk a lot about charity. Sometimes a person may be monetarily very poor, but have a wealth of heart, of energy, of magnetism. And if that person does not put that to work, it is a waste. And also, since it is a gift, that person will have to answer for.
All balance.
Exactly. You are going to be accountable. The ambitious person who prevail and the rich one who sustain his material pleasures should be pitied rather than envied, since one must take into account the consequences. By the terrible examples of the dead who have communicated to us their experience after death, Spiritism demonstrates the truthfulness of Christ's statement. He who elevates himself will be humiliated, and he who humiliates himself will be elevated. Most of the book Heaven and Hell, that's part of the Spiritist codification, have all the accounts of the spirits saying, this is how my afterlife is going, and this is how my physical life was, and look what is the correlation between them. So by reading the book, we can have a pretty good idea of how you can fix your life now, how you can have a better intent and a better life, so you have a better outcome.
But it's not punishment, right?
It's not punishment,
And
no.
what is it then?
It's consequences. It's all consequences of what we do. And there's not, punishment is, I think we are spiritually mature enough to be away from that vision that God punishes us.
Well, but this is actually very well versed in the traditional philosophies and religions.
Most
So,
are.
yeah. So we like to emphasize that Spiritism does not have the idea of punishment. God does not punish anybody. The afterlife does not punish you.
That's
What
when we talk about
happens-
karma. Karma is not the vision of
happens-
punishment.
Yeah, exactly. What happens is that our actions and reactions.
Yeah.
We are free.
All
we are
the
free-
actions will have a reflection, and the reactions will be
We are
them
free to choose, but we are not free
from the.
as far as consequences of our actions are concerned. So what the book Heaven and Hell does say, which we like to explain that I'm interfering, folks, because the name of the book alone is so religious, right? It's so strong. It seems like we're gonna send everybody either to hell, heaven, or hell. And the reason why Kardec used that name is because this book was written in the time with this idea of heaven and hell was so strong that he wanted to bring the perspective of Spiritism, meaning that there is no, you're not going to be thrown in heaven, we're going to be sent to heaven or thrown in hell because of your actions. You're just going to be living in a place that is in tune with actually what we are. That's the big difference between life in this world and life in the spirit world. Here we are amidst good and bad people, more or less people, but in the spirit world, you're going to be living people in the same wavelength. So, like, again, we are free to choose whatever we want to do, but there are consequences for whatever we do. And there are places in the spirit world that are beautiful, bright, light, but there are other places that are heavy, sad, and ugly. So, can we compare those to heaven and hell? In a way, yeah, in terms of the image, but biggest difference. Yes, exactly. The biggest difference that you do not, even if you end up in these lower zones, you do not stay there forever. You can be the worst criminal possible. You do not stay in these places forever because you can repent in the spirit world, and God is full of mercy. That's why we have the chance of live other lives to rebuild our path, to do better, to grow, and to do good for us and for others.
Yeah, when we
So,
talk about evolving,
yeah.
it does
It-
not
it
mean
is-
just one
It's
life.
so
It's
deep.
constant.
Yeah,
Even if we are in those lower zones,
yeah.
there will be a time that we will have a chance to do better, to get out of there and have a happier life.
I think, Adriana, it's so deep. You
It is
know,
very deep.
that's why sometimes we read a summary of Spiritism, and if we do not explain in this way, people will end up leaving here thinking that Spiritism is just another traditional religion, putting people in hell or in you are accountable. If you don't do that, you're going to be punished. There is nothing like that. This is we are exactly, Spiritism is exactly the opposite in terms of traditional philosophies out there. I just worry about the time.
Yeah,
How
we're
about
wrapping
if
up.
we stop here, because I think it's worth for you to explore this more
Okay.
further on.
Okay, let me just.
And give the chance to people to make some questions. What do you think?
All right.
Because you're half away, right?
I am
Yeah,
pretty close to the
we
end.
can't divide because this is so deep. You did such a great job putting things in summary. I just don't think we can just
Go
slide
further.
through it.
And the next part is it's a very deep because we're gonna talk about charity. And charity is something that we have this traditional conception that we're talking about you have to give your money to somebody else, and that's totally not what we see as charity. So this is a topic that we will explore a lot further, and I hope that you all understand that those are, it's a little compilation, and it's not going to explain to you what spiritism is or what our beliefs are. It's a little tease. It's like to put a little question in your head, say, okay, I want to learn more about the vision of heaven and hell, or I want to learn more about how I can use prayer to connect to God.
Where can they find that?
Come here every Thursday.
No. What is the book?
The best book that you're gonna find answers, and it's literally questions and answers, is the Book of Spirits. The Book of Spirits, not the Spirits book.
Adriana, I think it's important to say that in Spiritism, the way that we see God's love is different from many other traditional religions, right? Because in many other religions, the way that God loves you has to do with the way that you live your life. So if you are a good person, God loves you more. If you are not a good person, God loves you less. In Spiritism, God loves us, all of us equally, because when God looks at us, he doesn't see the work in progress that we are now, but he sees the end product.
The potential that we are.
He's looking at us as a seed, but he sees the oak tree that is inside of that seed. And he knows that it will take a longer time or shorter time, but all of us one day will get to be that big and strong tree. And that's how he loves all of us, because he sees our end product, not the road that we are all walking individually to get to that point.
Another good point too, I'm sorry, is like we don't need to be afraid of God. There's no fear of God. He's not a punisher, he's not somebody that's looking at us, say, hey, you're doing something wrong now, you're gonna have to pay. No. It's ourselves. We gotta be conscious of what we do. You know, so
He takes away the fear.
Takes away the fear. That's a good summary. I love that.
So to finalize, then I'll jump like all the way there to the last. So we're going to talk more later about charity, but Christian Spiritism, what we study here, what we believe, exhorts the maxim, without charity there is no salvation. So I hope you're curious now to know what this charity that she's talking about, what that really means. And you come back and we'll talk. In the meantime, I hope you have a little push to have intention in your life.
And you're also gonna be out there, right?
Yes, I'll be outside. Once we're done with passes, I'll be.
We can ask you
Outside.
everything, right?
You can come and ask me everything, and I'll have Olivia right next to me, and she'll answer everything.
Can I ask you for $1 million?
Of course you can.
You're gonna get a no.
I'll give you an answer. I'm not gonna give you the $1 million, but I'll give you an answer. Thank you guys. Have a great night.